What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. In fact, it's time for Comics Revisited, and tonight we're revisiting a very classic comic, in my opinion, from 1995, 1996, something like that. I can't believe it's been 25 years since this book has come out, but I guess that's why they did this really slam-banging hardcover edition. We're talking about Batman the Long Halloween. Halloween's on the way. You know, how many more days? Six more days till Halloween. Halloween. Speaking of 6 more days till Halloween, joining me tonight is a panel of fantastic people. In Gotham, back in 1996, they would call them freaks because we're trying to overtake the run and reign of the Roman Carmine Falcone. Brian, what's up, Brian? How you doing? You're muted. Can't hear you. You're muted. Unmute your mic.
Sorry, station.
Yeah,
Sorry.
station.
I'll start over. Doing good. Hey, everybody. Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you back, bro. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to this.
Another member of the Rogues Gallery joining us tonight is from the Bad Batch. It's Missing Link. What's up, Stef?
Station. What's going on, fellas? Happy to be here. Excited to talk about this classic.
Hell yeah. First appearance on Comics Revisited, everybody.
Yes.
So,
Station to that. Thank you.
And here we go. We got it. We got him. We promised you eventually in October we'd have this dude on. And proud to say that we do. It's none other than J-Strick.
Station.
Station.
It's going to be a long Halloween, you know?
It's going to be a long Halloween. All right, let's talk about this book. This book came out, like I said, 95 to 96. It was a miniseries, 13 issues, and at the time, DC did their fair share of Batman books each month. You know, they had one ongoing a week, right? And it would kind of tie in together, but I feel like that was actually tame compared to today. But the long form miniseries of Batman, it was a special treat back in those days. And when Long Halloween came out, we were like, this is something special. This is something different. And at the time, I don't think that editorial or the creators understood or maybe even thought that they were making that evergreen property, but they did. This is a direct sequel to Batman Year One because Frank Miller did Batman Year One with David Mazzucchelli, and it set up the idea of when Batman first started and Gordon was trying to come in and clean out. They were trying to clean up Gotham and whatnot. That there was all this organized crime. You know, there's a lot of Godfather and Goodfellas type stuff in this book, and it was in that Year One book. And then every other Batman book we've ever had, it doesn't reference that really, right? It wasn't until 9 years later when we got Batman the Long Halloween what they finally told us the rest of that story and tied it into the origin of Two-Face. I love this book. I remember when it came out, bro, this book hit hard. Everybody was talking about this book. And the fact that it was the way it is, of course, it's about the holiday killer. If you're not familiar with the story. So there's a holiday killer going around. This is basically Batman Year Two. And better than the Mike Barr, Todd McFarlane, Alan Davis one. I mean, I'm just going to say nothing against that story, but I mean, that's where we get the basis for Phantasm. We get the basis from Phantasm from that, but this is a much better Year Two for me because it picks up directly on those threads, right?
Yeah.
So we got the fall of the Mafia, and we got the rise of the Gotham freaks, Joker, and of course Harvey Dent into Two-Face, Poison Ivy, Solomon Grundy. I love those throwbacks there. And this was the first time in my life I ever even heard of the Calendar Man. But when this came out, it hit. And the fact that each issue is about a different holiday, this killer strikes mostly against the Mafia, only on holidays on each month, right? And the fact that it came out on the corresponding month, really made it feel more special, right? But at the same time, it kept the theme thematically of the Long Halloween, and we'll get to that. So overall, I love the story, always have. On the revisit, I told J-Strick this. I thought to myself, they don't make them like this anymore. They really don't. They're going to try because that comes out on Tuesday, and I'll be talking about this a little bit later. But I adore this book, and it still holds up for me. Brian, what do you think about the book overall?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I was glad when you asked me to be on this, and then I actually didn't realize this was a direct sequel to Year One until you mentioned it the other day. So I also used it as an excuse to go read Year One,
Nice.
which is absolutely fantastic. I read that one when it came out, and that was just phenomenal. At the time, and an interesting thing from there I thought is that Frank Miller was a huge star at the time. I mean, still well regarded, I'm sure, but he wanted to find someone that could draw, in a more, more human style and less, bombastic style, because it was trying to bring it back down and everything. And and then when they I did read the forward on this one, and thought it was a pretty cool development how that one kind of came about. Wanting to focus more on the crime thing, but then, yeah, I don't know if this is Year Two because of how many freaks have developed, and quite frankly, like, he's 3 times the size, working out like crazy. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I did not read this one when it came out. I wasn't reading comics in that time frame, but I want to say I read it probably a couple years after and was just blown away by the art, and the story. I mean, it's just I don't know, everything unfolds pretty well, and I don't know, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good book, and I would say it's Year Two, because Carmine's still there, and we know that Robin shows up in Year Three. And that's when Dark Victory, the sequel, by the way, like the sequel. And that's the cool thing, is it gave me, as a retailer or just as a fan of comics, like when people would, like, let's just be honest, most people, if they're trying to get into comics, like, the one superhero that they really know is Batman. And so, like, it's easy to go, I can start you off. Batman Year One, Long Halloween, Dark Victory. Just read those. Like, right? And if they make it through those 3, then they're like, wow. And it completely recontextualizes and reconceptualizes the origin of Two-Face, and then Dark Victory, the sequel, the origin of Robin. We'll get to that on a later episode of Comics Revisited, I'm sure. But the book is fantastic. And a lot of people even got into it after the fact, a few years later, when they were doing Dark Victory, which Dark Victory, I think, is a really solid book as well. Steph, I appreciate you being here. What do you think about this book overall, man?
I loved it. I think it's timeless. I didn't read it until like years later after it came out. I'd always seen it in Wizard magazine and stuff like that growing up, but never got around to getting a hold of it. It wasn't until, I want to say I was like 19, and all the hype for like the Nolan's Dark Knight started, and he kept mentioning in interviews how that was one of the books he made the crew read. So I was like, oh, I've always heard about this book. Now Nolan's making that like a mandatory Bible for the movie. So I read it then. It's just it's timeless to me. It ties in a lot of like you said, the downfall of like organized crime, the rise of the Gotham freaks. I think it kind of set like not a standard, but like that is like, every writer kind of wants to achieve like a Batman story like that nowadays. Like, it was so good. Loeb tried to rehash the story with Hush a few years later to less successful degrees, but it's all there.
It's
like,
sold better, so it depends on what you mean by success, right?
True. There's a funny panel actually, and at the very end where like Harvey's in the sewer, he runs into Solomon Grundy. He's all bandaged up. I was like, Hush was just Loeb was revisiting that, and it was like, Hush, my new villain. But it's one of my favorite Batman stories. I just think it really gets the point across of the inner workings of like Gotham and how it twists I was going to say victims, but the inhabitants of Gotham, and how it really affects them and vice versa. I love it.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned the relation to the Nolan films, because Matt Reeves also quotes this as being a big influence on his upcoming Batman movie, right?
Yep.
But in the entire Nolan trilogy, I mean, he does that. He lays out, it's Batman when he starts, it's about the mafia, right?
Yep.
And then you have the introduction of the Joker, right? And that starts getting into the idea of, like, for the appropriate term to the book, the freaks start showing up, right?
Yep.
And then it all ties up with the fall of Two-Face, because Harvey Dent represents to Batman how I can finally achieve my mission, right? And what's really striking about reading this Batman book, in addition to anything else, is how optimistic Batman is that it's right around the corner. Bro, like, we're about to do it. We're about to clean up Gotham. It's almost over. We're so close. I got Gordon, I got Dent. And it's about that I love this story because there's so little about Dent and that relationship, that trifecta. It starts in year one. It's vaguely, like, just briefly alluded to that they're going to form a partnership, Dent, Gordon, and Batman. And it gets to be, oh man, it really gets to actually have its moment to shine here. Speaking of having their moment to shine, J-Strick, you wanted to be on here. In fact, you suggested, I was like, well, I don't know what to do for October. It's Halloween. He goes, do the long Halloween. I was like, that's so obvious, but we should do it. So obvious and so necessary that Geeks Unleashed is doing it as well for their comic spotlight. But anyway, J-Strick, what do you think?
I adore this story. If there was a Batman Bible, like, this has to be a book in that Bible, right? Like, it's essential. It's an essential Batman story to me. It encapsulates the character perfectly, right? It's a detective story, but it's also a story of Jim Gordon, a story of Harvey Dent. Even Selina has her moments, you know. And I love that. I love the human aspect of all the characters. You see the realness of it, but also you see the gritty nature of Batman and him getting his hands dirty. And I love the moments with them on the rooftop talking about, you know, you can bend the rules, just don't break them. And you know, you see Batman and Harvey, you know, cross those lines and don't cross them. And it's just it was beautifully done. Loeb and company just nailed it, I think. And it's just one of those timeless stories, like you said when you were reading it, Robbie. It just holds up, man. It's so freaking good. Even like random bits, like I was talking to you today, like Batman chasing down Joker in the plane. I'm like, still awesome.
Yeah, that's iconic. Yeah.
The poison ivy bits, all that. It just works. I had a lot of fun rereading it.
Yeah, I love Mad Hatter and Scarecrow just kind of like hanging out for a few issues until they finally strike. And I love the Riddler's usage too. As he's not even that important, you know, but he asked the right question. And I think that April issue is a very key into realizing the split of the holiday killers. And we will be getting into some spoilers into the story, guys, just so you know. So let's talk about that story. Let's talk about Jeph Loeb. Jeph Loeb was already known. You know, he was doing work on I think at this point he had already worked on X-Force and things like that, right? Cable, right? But this, to me, and I think to most of the community at that time, cemented him as a writer to be known. You started, you know, you mentioned Wizard stuff. So like he started appearing on the top 10 list there, right? And then they followed up with Dark Victory. Now, him and Tim Sale had worked together before on Wolverine Gambit Victims.
Underrated.
Underrated? I don't. Well, this show's not about that one, but I don't really like it that much. But this one really nailed Jeph Loeb. And then he would go on to be very prolific for a time. Of course, doing work with Extreme Studios and Awesome Entertainment and all that kind of stuff. But he was getting that Marvel work. He was getting that DC work. You know, he would eventually start doing the color series with Tim Sale. We'll get into that when we talk about the legacy. Story-wise, I love the way it's structured. The problem is he does reuse this structure often. In fact, Hush was so easy for me to figure out, not just the Thomas Elliot part, but the Riddler part of Hush. I figured out by the 5th part of that story, because I was familiar with Long Halloween, I was familiar with Dark Victory, and it's the same structure he uses to present the mystery. He will take off the board those who are actually the revealed killer or surprise, whatever, right? And but this one has a little bit of a nuance at the end.
Yeah.
When he reveals that there's not just one holiday killer, but 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
That gets a little confusing when you get into the story, but the way it's written, it's masterful. At the time, this was the best Batman comic on the shelf. Like, absolutely. Yeah. It was easily, like, Batman was good in the 90s, like the Chuck Dixon stuff, the David Mank stuff. It was, all that stuff is fine, but it doesn't hold up right? It still feels very dated, but it's fine for what it is. But this is something that was truly evergreen, timeless, as Stef said, where the writing works. The problem, reading it as a graphic novel, is that Jeph Loeb, as did everybody, especially back then, they wrote for the issue, right? And so he just repeats a lot of lines like over and over, especially when he's reintroducing a character. He'll describe it the same fucking way. It gets really old, but I'd rather have, here's the thing. Write it like that for each issue. When you do the trade, edit that shit out. Just edit it down, right? If Tom King and Grant Morrison can change their dialogue from the printed floppies to the trade paperback, do that with things like that. You know, that way you can still write for the issue and write for the trade. But overall, I love the story. I think this is where he formulates that structure. It works as a mystery. It does get a bit weird when they do the extra twist ending, and you're like, really?
Wait a minute. Yeah.
When did that happen? How did they coordinate this shit? Like, I don't know. But like, I think that I love Jeph Loeb was able to take, let's look at Batman at the end of Frank Miller's year one and David Mazzucchelli. Let's see where Batman goes from there to the next point that we know him as, like, having realized that he's in a never ending battle, right? Like much like Superman, right? Superman realizes that, still optimistic about it. But this is a point where, y'all, I'm serious. That does count as optimistic for Batman, because Batman is like 100% like, he honestly believes that it's almost over. And I love the usage of this one point in time where you can tell this story in Batman's narrative. It's the one place where you can tell this story. Jeph Loeb noticed it and figured out how to make it work and tie it in with the Harvey Dent stuff that inspires Christopher Nolan. And Christopher Nolan, of course, is inspired by the Brianiac. So, Brian, what do you think about the story overall in this film? I mean, in this, it's a comic book.
Well, like you're saying, I don't know. I think it's a well-constructed story. I didn't read it as it came out, but, as a long-term comic book reader, even when I read trades, like I try to, follow that same flow as if it's a monthly kind of thing. And I thought he nailed that serial structure with this, which, like you were saying, they don't really make them like that anymore. I mean, cause like, kind of my common complaint with some of the modern Big Two comics is I will read an issue and nothing will really have happened. But in this one, every chapter advanced something for somebody and multiple people usually, and I thought that was really, really well done, I am still a little confused by the twist ending. But what was funny is it had been so long since I read this, like I couldn't remember who any of the killers were. But then when I did remember that Maroni's son, Alberto, I think, I remember he was part of it. And then, I don't know, it wasn't a completely fresh mystery, but like, I was being strung along again.
Right.
But yeah, I really like the grounded crime noir thing, with it. I mean, I thought a lot of the things they put in there, like the method, is a real old crime noir thing, get a, cheap gun, knockoff gun, file off the thing, and then, using a baby nipple as a silencer. I thought that was,
that's dope.
It was just like as DIY as you can get, I mean, I don't know. There's so many things to love about this. And then I don't think so.
Something to look up on YouTube. There you
go, Mythbusters.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. But I love the way they handled all the freaks too. I mean, every single one of them had weight in the story, for their portions and everything. And definitely reading it after seeing the Nolan movies, you can, man, it's just so many things, actually came from that story more than probably any other I could think of. So, I don't know. Yeah. I can't really knock it other than maybe a little bit of confusion at the end.
Nick says that the baby bottle nipple thing or whatever doesn't work. Can confirm.
Weird flex.
Well, I do hear that. I have a theory that Nick works for the CIA, because I've known some people that work for the CIA, and he strikes me as somebody who works for the CIA.
That would make sense. The man with stats.
If he was on, if he did work for the CIA, I don't know if they would allow him to have a YouTube channel. But then Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Yeah.
Right?
You never
Let's
know. And
hit up
cover
Sam
Could be the
Rockwell.
perfect cover, right?
David Mack.
Hey.
Mack's a CIA agent, man. Like, it's some weird shit going on out there. Anyway, great points there. What I love too is he's able to tie these villains in thematically for the holiday that's going on.
Yeah.
And Joker being used for Christmas and New Year's just
Works.
blows me away. And I
Works,
love,
yeah.
by the way, that Penguin shows up at the end, but you're like, where the fuck was Penguin?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, where was Penguin? Whatever.
That was probably how they thought about it. They got to the end, they were like, "Oh shit, we forgot about him." Throw
Yeah,
him
and
in.
another
in
cool
there.
thing about they don't make them like they used to. Jeph Loeb's able to make a book that's relatively dense with words, but it doesn't feel that way. It's such a
Absolutely.
quick, easy, breezy read,
Oh, yeah.
man.
It's one of the
It's-
fastest 13 issues ever.
I did my comic book review last week, and I was like, okay, it's been a long night. I need to watch a movie, but I'll read the first chapter of Batman: The Long Halloween. I finished it. I just finished it. I mean, it was just like, fuck, I'll finish it. Steph, what do you think about the story overall, man?
I loved it. It had it's like J-Strick was saying earlier, it wasn't just like a story about Bruce Wayne. Like it had a lot of moving pieces, like whether it be the Falcones, Maroney, Dent, Gilda, Jim at home with his wife, even like it's a little, not even maybe call it like a subplot, but Barbara, just had all these moving pieces that really added to the overall story. Like it was like a domino effect. Like Jim's relationship at home kind of affected with how he approached work. Same with Harvey and stuff like that. I think that's the theme tonight. They just don't make them like that anymore. Like you said, it wasn't super verbose. There's a lot to read, but not a lot to read at the same time. Like the dialogue was very, very quick, very snappy. I loved it.
I love the way Jeph Loeb writes in that particular moment in time. Some of my other favorite stuff of his is his Superman run that he did with Ed McGuinness.
For all seasons.
That's
Well,
him and Tim Sale did for all seasons for sure. And that is amazing. That's really good. Yeah. However, it's just retreading the first year of Superman again, which just seems like how, out of the top 5 Superman stories, how many are retreading his origin? All right. Anyway, moving on. Jeph Loeb and Joe Kelly, along with J.M. DeMatteis, and who was the other writer? Joe Casey, eventually. Before that, I think it was J.M. DeMatteis, and then whatever, doesn't matter. That was a really solid run. I love the way he makes letterers look good. The way that he paces out his dialogue, it really works because you can actually have, if you look at actual like word count, there's some pages on there that are comparable to some of the stuff we'll see today, but the way that it's broken down, the way that it flows, and the artwork really helps with that flow. We'll get to that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of flow, J-Strick, what you think about the story?
I think it's solid. This story, Long Halloween, Year One, and Dark Victory are the 3 books me and you point people to when they come in and say, I want to get into comics. I want to read Batman. These 3 books are perfect starts because it captures the character of Batman just perfect, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And like what I love about the story is, like you said, there's a lot of moving parts, but also, dude, just the little tidbits of like Joker breaking into the house and just like how creepy he was with that smile, and I love it. I think they really did justice to the Rogues Gallery. They really did justice to Batman, and it is kind of weird. I was thinking that when I was reading how optimistic he was in the story. I'm kind of with you on that, Robbie, because even towards the end where he has that moment with Jim Gordon where he's like, you knew, didn't you? He's like, I didn't want to believe it, essentially, that Harvey was involved somehow. Yeah. And you're like, this is a very optimistic Batman. I'm not used to this.
Well, look at some of the structure of the dialogue. Like in the very beginning, the first line we see is Bruce Wayne saying, I believe in Gotham City.
I believe, yeah.
And then in that same issue and throughout the rest of the series, he keeps saying, I believe in Jim Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
in Harvey Dent. Yeah.
And then at the end, we see Gilda say, I believe in Harvey Dent. But the last thing we hear Batman say really is, I believe in Batman. And that's the shift that happens.
Yeah.
Is that he stops believing in Gotham He
all on
stops
his
believing in
shoulders.
other people, and it's all on him. And that's where it starts. And that's why it leads to such a great trilogy, because the trilogy of Year One, Long Halloween, and Dark Victory actually ends optimistically. Like Robin, like you end Batman's story there with the introduction of Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Then just watch the Adam West Burt Ward series, and that's all the Batman you need to know. Don't worry, it gets worse. Robins die, they come back, they die again. Who cares? Whatever. So, and I also love the way he doesn't spend a lot of time on it, but he really does a lot of work with the character of Selena Kyle.
Yes.
And her relationship with Batman and the whole dichotomy there. And yeah, When in Rome, which is set during Dark Victory, if I'm not mistaken, because she leaves in Dark Victory and she finds out ultimately, spoilers, that Alberto Falcone or Carmine Falcone is her father. So, and I love that he still has the cat scratches and all that kind of shit. So the story's really cool. And I think it's great, but it's really, really helped along by the artwork. Jeph Loeb was blessed with working with Tim Sale for a lot of his career, including up to this week. This Batman Long Halloween special comes out. We'll be talking about that in a second. Yeah. But I absolutely love Tim Sale's artwork. There was a book he did. I think it was called Billy 99 or something. I saw a Dark Horse. That was the first time I remember seeing his work. I think he did some Grendel stuff as well, but I'm not super familiar with some of the Grendel work. But this blew me away. And still today, some people don't get into his style. It's highly stylized. It's almost a caricature-ish type thing. Like the Joker's all broken teeth and Catwoman's super muscular, and so is Batman. Like Batman's like everything is so exaggerated, right? Yeah. But I love that. It really helps bring about character traits through visual representation, right? And that's what the epitome of cartooning is. Right. And Tim Sale to me is a master. He's a master of that noir style. The coloring. Did he do the colors too?
I don't think so.
That's what I was looking up.
The coloring definitely added to the book a lot.
No, he didn't do the coloring on this one.
No, he didn't. Yeah.
The colors are Gregory Wright, and we got to spotlight that too, because the coloring on this, it's so moody, it's so atmospheric. It is straight up atmosphere. Everything is painted in this cool wintry tone. It's the Long Halloween, right? And even when we're getting into like St. Patty's Day and April Fool's Day, they introduce green, but it's still this very cold version of green. It starts a little warm, right? It starts a little warm because it starts on the hottest day of the year, but it's more like they're picking up the warmth on the fall colors, and then it just gets chilly for the rest. I love the freaking artwork. I think Tim Sale's a genius. The way he tells the story, the emotion, the action. You look at it, it's really dynamic as well. It's kinetic, bro. There's a lot of movement. The snow, the way the Joker's like positioned, always crooked. Yeah. Everything about it crooked. Scarecrow's this super thin, lanky kind of dude, and Poison Ivy's just got hair. She's just hair, all like leaves and hair. Like
Batman Spawn cape.
Yeah, right. I freaking love the artwork, man. And long ass ears. You know, I don't usually like long eared Batman, but it works for me with Tim Sale because it's part of his style. What do you think about the artwork, Brian?
Well, yeah, absolutely love it. I mean, it stands out for this one. And because I he did do Grendel. And I was actually probably my first time I saw him, but when I was doing my reread of Grendel, I was like, man, this is so good, you know. But he, it's definitely stylized, and you know, some of the stuff is exaggerated, and but like not to the point where it's just, you know, silly or anything like that. You know, I mean, it just like it gives it helps set the tone of certain things. Yeah.
It's not Peter Bagg. It's not Sam Keith even necessarily. It still has a grounded nature to it.
Yep. Well, and I was looking at it pretty close on this reread because like I've always thought his style was kind of simple, you know, really heavy black and white type, because I learned a while back that he's actually colorblind. And so, which I thought was interesting and it made sense in some of the other, you know, stories he did and everything.
Definitely didn't color it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Sure. I'm pretty sure he didn't, you know, but it's really not all that simple. Actually, if you look pretty closely, he does a fair amount of rendering and little lines and everything like that. Yeah. And I can't not bring up the splash pages. Every single one of those was just holy crap.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you've seen those super cluttered splash pages and everything like that. They don't really tell you anything. He's using them only as storytelling techniques.
Oh yeah.
And there's some of the best action scenes in there. And one of my favorite ones is the Harvey Dent as Two-Face revealed, like kind of where he's in the shadows and all the other rogues are there just like hanging out. That needs to be a poster, man. That's just like, I mean, that thing is so dope. But like, another thought I had is like, if you're going to follow year one, you need to find an artist that's a storyteller too. That's a master storyteller.
Absolutely.
Because, Mazzucchelli, that one just, it's so, it's just awesome. And the fact that he's in shadow, like, it's just, I don't know, just, screams off the page there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just the sheer storytelling techniques he puts into these things is just, I think that's what's made it last for so long, and pull it out of, the time it was created in,
yes,
everything like that. So, but yeah, the, that comment is funny. Yeah. She, I think that was on purpose.
She's key though in Dark Victory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and yeah, like you said, the coloring, like, it's the fact that it's a lot of block colors actually really lends itself really well to how that to the mood of the story. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like I'm sure the colors can do complicated and all these other things, but those selections and choices and all those other things just, I mean, it just makes it pop.
Less is more. Less is more.
Yeah.
And being able to use less to evoke more, I think is stronger. That's why I love Dave Stewart. This is like, it almost was like Dave Stewart could have colored this.
Yeah.
And there is contrast in there. You see the coloring right there.
Yeah.
There, like there is contrast and it works for its necessary point.
But yeah.
Nice. What about you, Steph? What do you think about the artwork? Tim Sale and Gregory Wright.
I love it. I think it's classic. I only recently found out that it's kind of an acquired taste. I was talking to some backlog bros, and I showed like a panel, and I was like, "Oh, this is classic to me." And someone was like, "It's just kind of an acquired taste," but I respect that. I was like, taken aback, but I get it.
It doesn't look like Jim Lee or Neil Adams or John Byrne.
It's okay. You can fucking out them right now. It's okay. Just let me know. Let me know who it was. I'll take care of it.
No, but they were cool about it. But I just like Brian was saying, it almost seems like Cell's very simplified sometimes, but the man does a lot of work. There's like one panel where like Jim Gordon was like, I believe he was talking to Harvey Dent, but it's raining, and the panel is of Jim's reflection. So you see like these little splotches. It's like insinuating it's like the rain on the mirror or whatnot. It's like little small details like that are littered throughout the book. I think his over exaggeration actually adds, because Gotham's supposed to be like no city on earth, like there's no place else like Gotham. Like they're just from the downtown to the architecture to it's got a very neo-Noirish feel to it. Man,
I think it's also very hard to call yourself a fan of comic books and not like an exaggerated style.
Yeah, exactly. I like to see stuff in different interpretations. Like it keeps things fresh and fun.
It may
like,
not be in your taste, right? But
right.
Even if I didn't necessarily like Tim Sale, like I wouldn't want Tim Sale doing the main Batman. Well, I would want Tim Sale doing the main Batman. I wouldn't want Tim Sale doing the X-Men. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want Tim Sale. No, I wouldn't want him to do a team book because it would be too much. It'd be too cluttered. Like there's certain things that would work. And here's the thing. Certain Batman stories would work for Tim Sale. If he was drawing what James Tynion was writing right now, it wouldn't pop.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that book.
Yeah, it wouldn't pop. It wouldn't pop. So I think that Tim Sale is perfectly utilized in Batman The Long Halloween. And I also think he's a fantastic artist too. Hasn't really slowed down. Maybe a little, but not too much. We'll talk about it.
Is that a sequel?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's after Dark Victory. Yeah. It's the Halloween after Dark Victory, I think, from what I can piece together. But it picks up a lot on the last bits here. What do you think about the artwork, J-Strick?
No,
right,
I'm
Brooks.
fucking with you. No, I won't pull up Brooks on you. No, it's what can you say? You give me a dope story and dope artwork, I'm fucking there.
Right.
This is that for me. Tim Sale kills it. I think him drawing Batman just worked, right? Like jacked, the pointy ears, the cape. Like I'm there for that. The moment when the reveal when you see Harvey, he's ascended into Two-Face. That splash panel, you're just like, oh wow, chills, man. I think he captures Gotham perfectly. I think it works and it holds up. And I think not a popular opinion, but I've said this on the record before, and I'll say it again. I love Dark Victory. I might like it more than this book, and I think his art in Dark Victory might even be better in that book. But that's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
But yeah,
I agree. I think that's Tim Sale's work is better there.
yeah.
I 100% agree. That cover of Dark Victory #1
Oh my God.
with Batman,
Yeah.
and, bruh. There
Yeah.
was a T-shirt, by the way, for every issue of Dark Victory's cover. There was a T-shirt.
That's
That's how
sick.
powerful those are, man.
I need them.
They're vintage now, man. Good luck. They're all faded and shrunk and shit.
But just because like nowadays I find myself sometimes reading through books and it's like I'm not every book, but paying attention. I'm looking at the art, but I'm not absorbing it. Like this book is one of those you're looking at every image and just kind of absorbing the shadowing, the detail, the coloring. Just like I was saying earlier, the small little bits like the raindrops and the reflection on Jim Gordon's window. There's just a lot of that throughout this book where you're just kind of like, it's in, the image is really enhancing the dialogue.
Yeah.
Did these come out on time? Like when you said you bought them as they came out, did they come out like on time?
I'm pretty sure I remember them coming out on time.
That's even more impressive, right? I mean, because
comics used to come out on time all the time.
Oh, well, I mean,
That's
this came out a little bit before Planetary. That didn't. That one had a rough patch.
I think DC was a little bit more strict. Maybe somebody could correct me if I'm wrong in my memory. And of course, we're talking about 25 years ago, Brian. I was like 15, 14 when the shit came out. Okay, I'm pretty sure I remember this and Dark Victory coming out on time.
That's phenomenal.
Jeph Loeb's not one to miss the deadline, and I think they had more editorial there, and I think they were able to coordinate these things better, and there was less to worry about. And we could get into the current state of the industry, but
that's not
another show.
All I was trying to say is like if this came out on time, that what he did is even better.
Yeah,
I mean that's because
I mean. We'll have to look into it and actually look up the release dates, which can be difficult. But like, if it didn't come out on time, they're going to miss. You know what I'm saying? But how many times have you read a Christmas issue that came out in January? And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what I don't understand. Like,
those are supposed to come out in October, right?
Yeah. Berno says something about inkers. They had inkers back in the day. That did help. And there was no inker here, by the way, just so everybody knows. This was all Tim Sale did it.
Nice.
Even more.
Yeah.
But I think he mostly worked in the ink. I think he did his thumbnails and then he inks. His style now is way more blocky. When you read this week, it is way more blocky.
Kind of what's happened to Ramita.
But it works. But like, look at that. Look at the stark use of black as contrast on that page.
Nice.
It's still there. It's still there. So real quick, I'll just go over it. But like, look at that with Batman. Like, bruh. Like he details Batman in Long Halloween. But in here, he's way more in shadow. This is really cool. It focuses on Calendar Man, who is pissed because obviously at the end of Long Halloween, he's pissed because Holiday stole his thunder, right?
That was a funny joke.
His thunder gets stolen again, and so this is him trying to like do something big, and it's one of Batman and Robin's first things together, and it was cool. And there's a lot of Gilda and Harvey stuff in here, so that's cool. It's like the return of Gilda Dent, which is a character left dangling. I want to ask you guys this real quick before we move on. We have 2, maybe 3 holiday killers revealed in here. Spoilers. Alberto Falcone, But it's revealed at the end that it was Gilda Dent at first, and then possibly she thinks at least Two-Face took over for her.
Yeah.
And then at some point, Alberto Falcone was shot but lived. And then he's the holiday killer, and you feel like he's just trying to steal the thunder because it ties into some of the themes that we'll get to. What do you think about the whole reveal of the holiday killer? What do you think actually happened there, Brian? Because I got to think. Well,
I guess what I'm confused is the I guess they kind of maybe wrapped it up somewhat with the Alberto Falcone thing, because like I guess whoever killed him, which I guess would have been Harvey, because he came home wet, right, from that
or it's a red herring, because there's a lot of those put in here.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Gordon's wife Barbara is always like got baby bottle nipples, like toppers or what are they called? Nipples?
Yeah,
yeah,
bottle nipples.
Yeah.
This is weird to say.
It is. It is a little
nipples.
But I guess they didn't know he died, or didn't. I mean, I guess they knew he. I don't know. I was just kind of confused by that, but I know he killed the coroner, and the coroner, was that tied to Alberto? That's right, because they killed him because he knew that wasn't Alberto Falcone.
Exactly. So at a certain point, I think it is Alberto.
Yes.
It moves from Gilda possibly to Dent. I don't think it moves to Dent. Dent, as Two-Face, tells Gordon and Batman there were two holiday killers. I don't think Dent's a holiday killer at all in the book, ever.
Oh, okay.
I personally think it was Gilda at first, and then Gilda stopped. When did she stop?
After Alberto?
April Fool's
Day. Nobody died in April.
Yep.
Nobody died in April. And then when Alberto was, what day was that? What holidays? Anybody remember?
Was that New Year's?
That was the New Year's one.
Yeah, I think only the first couple was her, and then she thinks Harvey took over for her.
Right.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Steph?
I don't think Dent was a part of it. Like you said, there were red herrings littered throughout that book. I do think it was Gilda. Because she kind of laid that out at the end. She I thought once I kind of nipped some of these things in the bud, you would be home more. But that kind of opened the door for Falcone's son to. He's like, oh, this is kind of getting everyone's attention. He felt unnoticed, and that was like a way of him hijacking something and establishing a legacy, leaving a name for himself, since he was always in his father's shadow, that his dad always kind of kept him in the background as his way of overcoming his dad. Like, I didn't need you to make it. I was bigger than you towards the end. I think they just really were trying to keep a lot of that mystery going towards the end, and they kind of wanted to allude to it, to maybe it being, I guess you could maybe, well, I was going to say, was he cracking? Was Dent cracking earlier?
He's talking himself out of it. He doesn't even know.
Was Dent like
the
cracking
kills,
earlier than...
The kills feel very specific and intentional at first, and then they start not feeling so intentional, right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a point there. And like, Gilda's not, I really think Gilda stopped, and it would have been over in April. But somebody shot at the Riddler, right? But I don't know. I think Gilda did the first. So I think Gilda did the first two. And then she thinks that Harvey took over for her. But that's when it was Alberto. I think Alberto starts the moment he fakes his death.
Yep.
Interesting.
But I don't know.
So you think he faked? Okay.
I think
it was all three of them.
You think it was all? Tell us about that.
Yeah.
How does this work out? Did you plot it out?
Yeah.
You got like a goddamn.
Well, I did the whole fucking stream board. Yeah. No. I think it's. Obviously it's left open ended to have conversations like this.
Right.
But I think it's the three of them, because I think it started off Glinda. Then I think Alberto, obviously you see the internal struggle he has with his dad. He's like trying to please him and honor him this whole time, but he just doesn't care about him. Wants to be a part of the family business. Starts taking credit. I think Harvey, there's too many fucking coincidences for Harvey. I get the red herring thing, but there's too many fucking coincidences where he wasn't home, he was out late, blah. He showed up late to a New Year's party or his birthday, whatever.
Because he's trying to let us make us think.
Maybe, Or maybe he fucking was like, I'm not going to get these dudes in court. And he starts offing people. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Was he cracking earlier before the
that's-
actual transformation?
That's
Was
one
it?
of the things they always establish with
Yeah.
Harvey. Every time they go back and redo any bit of his origin, they always add the nuance that, like, for instance, we have learned through all the retconning and stuff that he had this split personality when he was a child, right? So, like,
here's the thing with Bruce, he never wavers, right? He's about justice. He wants to honor his family that's been slain. But you get moments with Harvey in the book that show you that split, like when the money's being burned, and he's like, if we were, any other men, we would do
that potential was,
the potential was always there with him. And so I think he crossed the line at some point. Maybe it was once or twice. And in the end with the line when he's like, there was 2 holiday killers, he doesn't care. He doesn't want credit. At this point, he's Two-Face, right?
Two-Face isn't a liar, though. Not to Dent, and I mean, not to Gordon, and not to Gordon and Batman. Like,
but he went weird. I don't think he'd weird stretch on Falcone at the end and just be like, "Yeah, I was in this the whole time too," because he's here to do what he's going to do. He wants to kill him. That's it.
What if he knew that Gilda was one of the killers, though? That's what he meant. Like they had found Falcone.
He does know.
I think
it's alluded. It's alluded to that he knows.
Well, one thing that makes me think he was doing it too is like that Bruce Wayne thing, bringing him to trial.
Yeah,
that's a pretty tenuous reason to bring somebody to trial because your dad saved the other guy's life.
Yeah,
that seems like that was
100%.
If he was doing it, that would be a kind of a good ploy to take attention off him for a while.
There's one thing that messes it all up, though. The 4th murder didn't happen. Alberto.
Yeah, Alberto.
Like, so are you saying, like, did he, like, what happened there? Like, I don't think that Harvey or Gilda shot Alberto and he fucking lives somehow. And then Neil's is like, when does Alberto take over?
Who knows?
I think maybe he pulled like a John Voight from Mission Impossible. It may not actually work.
It just may be one of these things Jeph Loeb threw in there and it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah,
that could be as well. Just something to kind of leave people thinking, and people start like, "Wait a minute."
You see 62's comment. Two-Face was just like malignant.
Yo,
I can't wait for the next for that. Okay. All right.
I could dig that.
Like next time I read it, I'm gonna have to go really hard into that. But I don't think Dent was ever a killer until he became Two-Face there.
Okay.
In the holiday, kills, it was Gilda to a certain point, and I think because Harvey never says it was him. She reveals at the end, but you picked up after me. I saw the weapon. You said it was evidence. Maybe it was. Maybe he just took evidence home. All the evidence that supports, that he did it supports that Gilda did it. Like, I'm just saying, I don't know. We got 3 killings before Alberto gets falsely killed. And then Riddler doesn't get killed. I think it's...
Who did that to him? Didn't they ever... Was it... They never... Okay.
We don't know. It was Harvey.
Well, didn't Riddler predicted it was Harvey, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it was Harvey.
Maybe it was there and he didn't kill. I don't fucking know, man. Bro. Somebody call Jeph Loeb. We're going to get him on the show.
There was too many bullets because they shot all around him, and that gun couldn't hold that many bullets.
Yeah.
It was
Harvey. It looked way better.
You're right about that.
It looked way better that way.
I
made the correct choice.
It was Harvey Dent in the mansion with a 22 caliber.
We'll get Jeph Loeb in. We'll bring him on the show one day eventually. I'll be like, "Hey Jeff, what are the holiday killers?" And he'll be like, "It's just a comic book. It doesn't matter."
It's not real.
This book
it's fictional.
Sucks. It'd be like Tim Burton when he was trying to. They asked him to explain the end of his Planet of the Apes movie. He goes, "It's a movie. It doesn't have to make sense."
He's probably fucking tired of the question. Yeah.
Fuck you.
Don't take away from the magic.
He's like, what's the fuck's a holiday killer?
What's the? It's a lot less ambiguous in Dark Victory. I'll tell you that. What's the book actually about? What's the thematic material to you, Brian? What is this book thematically talking about?
Well, I think there's a couple going on. The two that stand out to me is kind of the father-son relationships, or father-children relationships, because we talked about Alberto trying to get out from the shadow of really not just his father, right, but his sister, right? Because she's trusted with doing anything, that he can come up with. And, he's just kind of pushed off to the side. And then there's definitely, they touch a lot on, Bruce and his father. And then you also have, the kind of I guess Jim and, having a kid, and then Harvey trying, and Gilda trying to have kids. I mean, there's a lot of that kind of weaving in and out and things like that. But then it's the whole, not, the superhero not killing the villain, that they do that all the time. But this one's kind of set up more of as an ends justify the means kind of situation. Not so much, killing them, because, they're the killings, except for the coroner, are all criminals.
Yep.
So it's like, it really is like, it's probably raising the public tension a little bit, but it's not as much as if it would be like if these were like just killings of civilians or
Right.
Government officials or something like that. So you're kind of wondering, I mean, you do have Jim and Bruce firmly in the camp of, we're not killing these people, this isn't okay, but Harvey's always kind of dialogue ways like playing that back, and like. And it gets stronger and stronger, as it goes and everything. So, those are the kind of teams I picked up on.
Yeah, those three characters in particular, Gordon, Batman, and Dent, like they really each represent, like Batman represents one side, Gordon represents the other, right? The law and going outside of the law, if you will. And then you got Dent there in the middle with the two faces, and it makes instance and shit like that. Or is it the top, the supernal trinity there or whatever? But there's some really good points. What about you, Stef? What do you think the book thematically is speaking?
I saw like a lot of themes with obsession, whether it be Dent obsessed with trying to crack this case, Gordon did the same thing, Maroney, the Falcone's obsessed with trying to be the top dog. The son, obsessed with earning his dad's attention. And just how taking that, being obsessed, you miss out on a lot of, like, because these characters were so obsessed with said themes, like they missed out on a lot of small things that ended up biting them in the ass in the end. Even Batman, he was obsessed with almost kind of, like getting this done the right way, like not wanting to accept the fact, about things about Dent. Like he's like, no, he's obsessed with just, we're this close. There's no way things are going off plan, or they could be Dent or anybody, because we're this close to making everything right. So I think it definitely dealt with obsession and like the demons that come with that, like getting too involved with something and like becoming too narrow focused on stuff like that.
Well, 100%. That's a big part of it. 100%. And like, this book has multiple themes as the best literature does.
Yeah.
I mean, this book could be, I'm not saying it's quite on like V for Vendetta or Sandman or Invisible's level, but it's very close and layered for what it is, being a Batman comic. Okay, y'all, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
J-Strick, what's this book about, man? Come on.
Shoot. No, I think when I read the book, I see the story layout of this, the good versus evil, right? You see, humans have been struggling with that since the dawn of time. We all have the ability to do good. We all have the ability to do evil, right? And in the face of tragedy, what will you do, right? Will you do good? Will you do evil, right? Sure. Batman, his parents are murdered, right? Goes down a dark path, but decides he wants to walk that line of good and do better. And that Harvey's just teetering the whole book, right? And then you just see him go do
like he could have been
evil, right? It could have been either or. So it's just that idea of we all have the ability to do good. We all have the ability to do evil too, just depending on that. Yeah, exactly.
I like that, the struggle between the good and the evil, and basically it's choice.
Sure.
That determines the outcome of that, right?
100%.
And the choices you make, and obviously Gilda, Harvey, and maybe Alberto, I'm just saying it's a weird stretch when he's like fake dead. Like, that's the only bit, because they purposefully leave all the victims there so you can see them. 2 shots, clean.
Yeah.
Come on.
Was that the weird stretch, or was it the weird stretch in the end when Calendar Man and Holiday are just naming off random ass holidays?
That was such a funny bit. I'm gonna get the best of you.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
they
blah.
know more
Earth
for
Day.
me, because I was like, what the fuck they gonna do for August? I have no idea, but whatever.
Yeah, good.
No, the weird bit as far as the killing goes is like whoever
No,
didn't
I
kill the
know.
Riddler like machine gunned around him perfectly, and that doesn't seem
Right?
like Gilda didn't do that. I don't think Alberto would have done that either. Like, I don't
No,
understand. Like,
no.
like they're not like the Punisher could have done that, but he would have just killed the fucking Riddler anyway.
Yeah.
Y'all all
I get
have
it.
touched on what I want to talk about here. What is the book called? It's called The Long Halloween. What does Halloween represent? We got to look at the name. Okay, Halloween is All Hallows Eve. It's a symbol and representation of harvest time, right? Right. What is harvest? Where we reap what we sow. This book is about 3 people. The holiday killer, it's a distraction. It's just a mystery to intrigue us to check out the book, right?
Yes.
The book is about Batman, Gordon, and Dent. And it's about how all 3 of them are reaping what they sow. Gordon is reaping a failed marriage because of his commitment to his job.
Yep.
Dent is reaping a path as a villain. You either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain.
Damn.
Christopher Nolan knew exactly what he was talking about there.
Oh, yeah.
He's reaping his indecision
Right.
by being Two-Face, who has to have a coin decide things for him. Okay. Batman is reaping his choices too. And his choice is to try to end crime in Gotham City. And at this point, he makes a big point to let us know that he's very close to it at the beginning. He thinks he is, but he's not. And what breaks him is that betrayal, the tragedy of Harvey Dent, right? It's the end of the mafia. It's the rise of the freaks. But more so than that, it's the betrayal. Dent represents to Batman, and this is something Nolan really nails in The Dark Knight. Dent represents to Batman the end of the journey. And then when Dent becomes another one of these, Batman does end the mafia for the most part in Gotham. He ends the 5 families, right? He ends the Falcone regime, right?
Yeah.
The Maronis, the Zuccos, all that shit, right?
But
It's
his
done.
rise.
Nope. Because you got Joker. That's never ending. You got Poison Ivy. Mr. Freeze is to come. Penguin shows up randomly, just sitting on a desk, like, what's up, motherfuckers? But that's what it is to me. And then I watched
I like that.
a YouTuber named Matt Draper, who I love his channel. He does very philosophical takes on comic books and movies. And Matt Draper did a video on this that I watched a little bit earlier. And he mentioned an idea brought about by J.R.R. Tolkien called the Long Defeat. Okay? So I was thinking the long Halloween means the long harvest. This is the moment where the seeds start blossoming for Dent, Gordon, and Batman. And then Matt Draper said, this is a Tolkien idea called the Long Defeat, about how it's a battle that Batman will never win.
Right.
And this is the start. And like Batman's journey, Gordon's journey, Dent's journey, all of the characters in this movie, you could call life just one long defeat. Because in the end, we all get defeated by death, right?
Yeah.
And that's what this book's about to me.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
I like what you said about the Batman thinking it's almost done. Because there's that moment when it's him and Jim, and are they in Arkham or wherever they're keeping everyone? And
it's Arkham.
He's like Jim gives him a look, and he's like, "Don't say this is all happening because of me, right? All these freaks coming in." It's like, yeah, dude, it is. It's like,
come on,
they want a piece of you. They're intrigued by you. Yeah,
that's an idea presented at the end of year 1.
Yeah,
and at the end of Batman Begins.
Oh,
At the end of Batman Begins, Gordon says, "I'm worried about escalation. You know, when we get armor, they get armor-piercing bullets.
Exactly.
Now we have you. What are we going to get?" He goes, "What are you worried about?" And then he's like, "Take this new guy." Calls himself the Joker. Yeah, right? And then that leads right in. Bro, those themes are right there. Yeah. What is The Long Halloween about? It's what Christopher Nolan's Batman book is about, but they don't get to take it They use Catwoman instead of Robin. That's what they do.
The
Right?
Long Halloween's about family.
Yeah. No,
It's always
Dark
about
Victory's about
family.
family.
Yeah, it is. I agree. Dark
They're
Victory is
actually
100%.
They're both about family. They
Yeah,
really,
you could
really
say
They
that
are.
family.
they're both about family. They really, really
Because
are.
Bruce talks about his promise that he made to his parents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
he
that-
brings
Yeah,
that up a
he's
lot.
obsessed with it. Yeah.
2 whole
That
issues
was-
are devoted to that, Mother's
Yeah.
Day and Father's Day.
So did Harvey get that coin from his dad? I mean,
Yes.
was that
Yeah.
okay?
He left it
Yeah.
for him or something when he passed away.
I thought he had referenced something about visiting him.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't know,
Yes.
there's-
Yeah,
And
his
he's
father,
in like an
kept-
old person's home. Or
his
something.
father went through war keeping that coin in his ass so that no one would ever get it.
Did his partner,
Seriously.
when
Great
his
crossover.
dad died, did his partner keep it up his ass for a few years?
Damn, that's a
Yeah,
ass
just in case.
coin,
And then he
bro.
brought it
What
to
the
him.
hell?
Had to fill in that
Pulp
role.
Fiction.
By the
That
way,
dude's-
let's start the petition for Christopher Walken as Two-Face in the next Batman movie. Let's do it.
He's too fucking old, bro.
I
Stop.
thought I told you, Bruce, that I would find you.
And he's like, Max Shrek is Two-Face, and it's Max Shrek, and we're doing a sequel, ignoring all the other Batman movies, a direct sequel to Batman Returns, and it's the revenge of Max Shrek. Why has nobody
I
ever
like
brought
that.
Max Shrek into
Yeah.
the comic book? Has it ever happened? We're
No.
doing it. That's my
No.
Batman idea. I'm writing that down. Max Shrek and Batman. As
dig
I
it.
write that down, I'm just some guy got lucky. Max Shrek. I love Batman Returns so much, and Christopher Walken in particular. Out of 5 possible you digs, what do you rate this comic book? I almost said film. I'm so used to doing the movie night. By the way, I would recommend checking this out. J-Strick, did you read this?
Definitely.
Yeah, I liked it.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it's stretching
liked
in
it.
parts. Yeah, I think
It's a weird
it's
stretch
fun.
apart.
It's fun.
The artwork's not quite as good to me. It's a lot more
Right.
blocky, but there's moments of it that are more noirish. It's a little bit more sure of itself. But I think it's a really great coda to
I think you're a fan
everything
of the
that
book.
they've
You
done.
definitely want to pick it up and read it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one of the best Batman books you've read here in just a minute, right? Anyway, out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give Batman the Long Halloween? And major props to Nick Barucci of Dynamite Entertainment. Station Nick, nice hanging out with you earlier. And yeah, everybody hit that thumbs up button and share the stream. And after this, if you missed the show I did over at the Experience, check that out. Still some great deals to be had and great conversation. We talked about spam. I got a goal, y'all. I'm going to talk about spam on that channel every single week. Just wait and see.
How much is spam paying you?
Spam's not paying me nothing for
Can
that.
you
I just
get a
really
damn
be-
coupon
I
or
just
something?
really believe in-
Spam's kind of expensive.
I
Coupons.
just believe in the product, man.
It's all you.
All right. You out there in the chat, let us know. Batman Long Halloween, out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give it? Brian, what do you give it and why?
Well, I'm going to give it 5 because it's even the confusing part of who Holiday isn't a detractor to me for the overall effect of the book, because it actually kind of is. It's more like a MacGuffin, like I think we're mentioning earlier. I mean, because the story is more about the relationship between Jim Gordon, Bruce, and Harvey, and I mean that's the whole story. And artwork is just solid from the first page to the end. Coloring, even the lettering.
Yeah.
I did pay attention to the lettering this time.
Richard
I
Starking,
usually-
I
Did you
believe.
notice? Did you notice the music?
Oh man, the music I was listening to with it was
ever
great.
since we did Grant Morrison's New X-Men, I didn't want to throw anybody off by talking about the lettering, but I do want to say that in the 90s, aside from Todd Klein, Richard Starking was one of the most influential
Yes.
letterers out there. Comic Craft,
Absolutely.
all that stuff, he made lettering easier for people to do, and it works. The way the bubbles, like no lie, Brian, like the bubbles, the way they work, like I was mentioning that, the way the lettering breaks down the dialogue makes even the more verbose parts flow very well.
God, I've
Yeah,
never
you
heard
can't
someone
tell.
talk more passionately about lettering. I love it.
Yeah, you can't tell. I mean, the lettering, part of the function of the lettering is for you not to necessarily notice it. Now,
Sure.
obviously, like with some of the newer people like Aditya and a lot of the other folks, they're doing a lot of really creative things that add to it and everything like that.
Right.
But, like as much words as were in this and it not like conflict any way, shape, or form with the art is pretty phenomenal. So
and it's using the lowercase format, which actually worked, and at the time was very unheard of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give it 5. I got no complaints.
Perfect score from Brian. What about you, Missing Link? What about you, Steph?
Gonna give it a 5. The story does have its flaws, yes, but it's like one of the best Batman stories. It distills a lot of Batman's essence and Gotham and just the whole mythos into one story. So it's like if you've never read Batman before or anything, you can read that story and get what his mission statement's about, why Gotham operates, how it operates the way it does. It's one of the best Batman stories out there. Easy 5.
Oh, really 2 perfect scores already. What about you, J-Strick?
I'm gonna give it a 5. You dig? In all seriousness, getting to read through this again, it reminds me why I love comic books, especially superhero ones. Just such a good storytelling and the detail and the artwork, and it's one of these things where it's like I could see myself as a 70-year-old man in a rocking chair, just
picking it
fucking
up,
reading this again. You know what I'm saying? And being like, damn, it was Harvey Dent. He was one of the
You're gonna call Robbie too and say, "Yeah, it's Harvey."
I was right.
Can you hear me?
Send me pictures of his hardcover with like red ink and shit, like notes. Look
Actual
at the
string on
silhouette.
the comic book.
moment.
Look at the silhouette of the Holiday Killer. Look at it.
Oh,
It's not Harvey. Like, that's the thing too. Like the silhouette is always showing someone petite. That's Gilda. That's Alberto. It's not.
Yeah, no,
not
for
Harvey.
sure. This is in my top 5 Batman stories.
Nice.
I think it's solid, man.
Well, I hate to break tradition here.
Oh no.
No, I'm just kidding. This is 5 takes, man. This is one of the best Batman stories ever.
Station.
Travis asked me to like list my top 5 and y'all to list your top 5. Y'all, we're trying to go deep into this book. We ain't got time for that. But I already did a top 5 Batman stories, and we can talk about that on another night. But it's one of the best.
I'll do that.
It's
absolutely
literally one of the best like Batman stories. Yeah, we should do a live stream one night. Like get a panel together, best Batman books, right?
I'm down.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do it on I don't know, whatever. But but we got to do best Two-Face stories on February 2nd, 2022, right?
Okay.
That's
I
what?
like the timing of that.
Two-Face stories. 2/2
or Valentine's Day, in honor of the calendar, not the calendar killer.
No, on
but
Valentine's
holiday.
Day we're doing My Bloody Valentine the remake. I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm probably not kidding. We're probably doing it. Trust me, probably doing it. Sorry. Anyway, 5 perfect score all around for a PCP average of 5.069, dudes. Let's look at the chat.
Jesus.
Let's see here. Taki, 5 you digs. Officially unofficial geek, she gives it 4.5 you digs. 62 gives it 4 you diggities. I like that. John Holshoe gives it 5 J-Stricks. Ooh, that's actually like 8
that's a lot.
you digs.
That's like 6 okay, so we can add
the highest equivalent of a you dig you can get.
Add a you dig to 62 score. 5. Yes.
Bobby De La Ghetto gives it 5 you digs. James says 4.69.
Nice.
Travis says, I'll give this review 5 missing links. Nice.
That's about 8 you digs.
Sal says station times 5. I don't know if that's a rating or just like station.
Both.
Easy 5 though. So there you go. There we go.
Oh boy.
And I think that's what we got. Cerebro says, haven't read it in years, so I'll hold on to my rating. Just ordered the new hardcover, though, I believe at the beginning of the stream, Verno said, man, I almost pre-ordered it, and I think we now have, y'all, if you don't have it yet.
Yeah, you got to get this.
I'm going to tell you, it is $50. It's $50. But it is worth it. It is beautiful.
It pops.
It does pop.
Is there a lot of extras in the back? Or
what's the story about?
No.
Yeah.
The Trinity.
Oh, look, it's the Holiday Killer.
Yeah, there are extras in the back row.
Going off topic, have you guys seen Dune?
Who?
Just real quick, Dune.
Is that the new Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
That's the new Star Trek Part 3.
It was dope,
right?
but the picture, then when you click on the movie, it's very telling. Certain characters how they're placed out. I won't ruin anything, but
so the book does have all the covers for
Nice.
all the editions and all the covers of the books. It has an interview with Loeb and Sale, I believe. Here,
Yes.
it's got the original proposal right
Nice.
there
Nice.
by Jeph Loeb, which is a
cool.
little bit different.
Yeah. That's
but
the,
it's
that's
still
the stuff
cool.
Brian geeks out about.
And then
Yep.
it has
I
this
love that stuff.
the
Yeah,
talk
it's
on
awesome.
the covers right there by Tim Sale,
God, that's
and
great.
even some of the process on the covers
Wow.
that you'll see. It's really good. In fact, this is the best way to describe it. But very close to this. All right. This is the book,
Nice.
and that's the extras. So there's a lot of them.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
20 pages. Yeah.
It's a little bit more than 20, I would say.
Yeah.
And I would also recommend, if you're a fan of this, to check out Batman Long Halloween. Real quick, we forgot legacy. What's the legacy of this book? Tim Sale, Jeph Loeb launched their careers together. They did the colored series over at Marvel. They
Marvel,
did Daredevil Yellow, Spider-Man Blue,
Spider-Man
which
Blue.
is fan-freaking-tastic, Hulk Gray, which is weak, and Captain America White, which is weaker.
Yeah.
But this, and of course, Dark Victory and When in Rome, Catwoman, When in Rome
Yeah.
is really good, and Haunted Knight, which are their three Legends of the Dark Knight specials, and launched their careers. We don't get a lot from Tim Sale or Jeph Loeb anymore. Jeph Loeb kind of canceled. But he did head up Marvel Television for a while there. But it's kind of the legacy, right? It's just-
Varying
right?
degrees of success.
What do you think the legacy of the book is, Brian?
Oh, yeah. The only thing I really came up with on Legacy, because I haven't seen much, of it translating into the comics necessarily, so much as what we mentioned before, the Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah.
I think that, I didn't realize until how I reread it how much, Nolan was pulling from Year One and these stories and the way these characters are handled.
Yeah.
Right. Is what. And because I absolutely love all three of those movies. Like, if we do those on movie night, I give 5 digs. I could start off with that because all three of those movies, I don't know. And I think the way he used those elements from those stories, were just perfect. So
I did stretch the spine before I read it, just so you know. Okay, I'm sorry for the way.
yeah, you got to stretch that spine, man.
Yeah, I did. I
Thanks,
listened
Jim
to
Mint, for
I
your
listened to my
instructional
homie
video
Jim.
on that.
Yeah, you know how it goes, man. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Steph, what do you think the legacy of the book is?
I think it is one of the seminal Batman stories. Like I said earlier, it was so influential that Loeb tried to recreate it with Hush. He just took, and I also think that a lot of Batman writers will try to create a Batman story that involves the whole rogue gallery, and I think they owe a lot to this story, and the story kind of really pulled it off so seamlessly, naturally, I guess. Besides the penguin popping up towards the end on the table, but beyond that, it's like it's one of those books that I think for the most part, majority Batman writers are kind of aiming to create their own version of that.
There is also this thing Jeph Loeb likes to do where he just likes to have the villain sometimes, if he doesn't know what they're supposed to say, they just like repeat a nursery rhyme over and over again. Like what is Scarecrow's like obsession with patty cake? I don't understand that, but whatever.
He's just trying to outdo the Mad Hatter. He's like, this son of a bitch
They're
keeps
just
speaking
talking in riddles and shit back and forth. It's whatever. One of the big factors on the legacy, of course, we'll get to in just a second, but J-Strick, what do you think about legacy?
Yeah, I think this is one of those books that, like I said, it holds up, and they cemented their names in comic book history with it. I think this and Dark Victory are just some of my all-time favorite comic books. And
have you read Daredevil Yellow or Spider-Man Blue or any of those yet?
No,
Yellow
I've read the Catwoman.
I'm going to bring you something tomorrow.
Cool.
One of the best Spider-Man stories I've ever read.
That's
Spider-Man
awesome.
Blue. Really good, man.
That's awesome.
You're gonna love it.
I'm gonna give Hush a second try. I've only read it once.
I keep trying to give that one a try.
We're gonna do that in Comics Revisited one day, but I don't think the followers of the channel are necessarily gonna like it. Like what we think about that book. Everybody.
People love that book.
Steph, like me and J-Strick, we work at the shop. Most people come in, they're like, my favorite Batman book is Hush.
Hush.
Well, I don't get it.
And I'm like,
Right.
Okay.
Have you read anything
I
else?
can't help
Yeah.
this person. Somebody else take over. I can't help.
No.
You're already on the wrong path. I can't steer you from
Are they just big Jim Lee fans?
that.
Like,
That's
sure,
what I
you
think
may
it
like
is.
Hush, but have you read 90s Wildcats? Come on. What was it, Joe Corallo that was on the channel one day and he was like, can we just agree that Jim Lee's the Rock of the comic book industry, meaning that he's just in a bunch of shit?
Yeah.
That might have been on that
Yeah.
new X-Men one because,
I
like,
think
he's known for being a X-Men artist, but he didn't really do it that long, and the comics weren't that great. I mean, that was like, that was towards the tail end of Claremont's.
Yep. Portasio and Silvestri were way better.
He mentioned it on the Wonder Woman comics.
Oh, was it the Wonder Woman one?
I think so. He wasn't on New X-Men with us, remember?
No,
because
he was not.
we were
That's
positive about New X-Men.
That's right. That's right.
We didn't need Joe's negative influence on that one.
Good points.
We'll bring him on for Hush, though. I think he hates that as much as I do. Anyway, another thing about the legacy, though, like Brian said, he didn't know if it affected the comics. I think it did, because very shortly after this and Dark Victory, we start getting into the Greg Rucka and Brubaker way of thinking about Batman. And that brought Batman back. Like, every Batman book was like Long Halloween or Year One. It was all like based it was so good. Like, one of the most underappreciated Batman runs is Greg Rucka and Sean Martinborough on Detective Comics. That run is fucking amazing.
That lead into No Man's Land?
It was after No Man's Land.
Okay.
So No Man's Land was when Greg Rucka first started working on Batman, and then he got to do the ongoing Detective. Larry Hama did the ongoing Batman. That didn't work. So then they brought in Ed Brubaker, and then Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka together, along with Gotham Central, just had a very Miller, Loeb, Sale-ish run on Batman for years. Yeah. For years and years, until it got crazy again when old Grant Morrison came in and they decided, let's go back to the Silver Age, motherfuckers.
Everything matters. It all happened.
You think Batman's never seen a UFO? Let's talk about it. Anyway, that's what happened there.
He was pulling stuff from before the Silver Age.
Yes, he was. Absolutely. Brian's got to point us out like that. All right, so that's the show tonight on Long Halloween, appropriately for Batman. Thank you, J-Strick, for the suggestion.
Of course.
But we know what we're doing next month. Last Friday in November, join us for Comics Revisited as we revisit Astro City, Life in the Big City, the original miniseries from Kurt Busiek, Brent Anderson. Come on, y'all. Alex Ross covers. I am
good stuff.
Eager to get back into that, and I believe we're going to have Zach from Comics Bookcase on there, and I'm very, very excited. So, hell yeah. That's going to be fun. Brian, thank you for being here. Final thoughts?
I don't know. I think we said a lot and covered a lot of good ground. This did make me want to go back and reread Dark Victory 2 as well. It's been a long time since I've read that one. But yeah, it's I'm really grateful that you invited me on this one because man, it was such a joy to reread this and along with Year One and get back into all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's also making me want to rewatch the Christopher Nolan movies. I mean, yeah. I don't know. This, I don't usually need an excuse for that, but
you're going to have a Batman week for Halloween. Let's just say.
There we go.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
All right. Steph, final thoughts. Thank you for being here, bro. We'll have you back on again because you did amazing tonight for Comics Revisited.
Thank you. I was happy to be here. This is super fun. Final thoughts. If you've not read this, track it down. It's just not even if you're into Batman. It's just a really well done comic that'll kind of, like it said many times on here tonight, that they don't make comics like this anymore. And it's just like something if you look and just feels, even though I don't own it, so I'm being a hypocrite, but I'm going to. But I can imagine just seeing the hardcover and just like, man, I'm glad I own that. So read this story, guys. It's worth it.
And it's the size of the omnibus. There's also an omnibus of Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. I think it's Dark Victory, this one, and the Haunted Night stuff. But
gotta check that
I don't know. This is easier to read. It doesn't hurt my arm or back when I read it. That's pretty cool. Speaking of hurting backs, J-Strick, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Wash your hands. Eat chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
And read comic books. Go support your local comic book shop. Read some superhero books.
Station.
Read some indies.
Damn, yeah. Nice. House of Slaughter out this week, baby. Y'all
House
excited?
of Slaughter.
Oh yeah.
Woo.
Where's
My
ice cream
final
man?
thoughts. Thank you all for being here and revisiting Long Halloween with us. Astro City next month. But don't forget, the next live show here is going to be Thursday night for Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then we're ending Horror Fest on PCP. The official finale is The Exorcist over at Dylan's show on Saturday. But we're wrapping it up with a look at all 12 Halloween films on Friday night. So that means I got to dip out and go watch a Halloween movie. So anyway, Station. And remember,